Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. Here are two of California's most prominent leaders: Gavin Newsom on the left, governor of California, and Karen Bass, mayor of Los Angeles. These two people have exhibited what I would consider the worst leadership in this country relative to something like what's going on out there in California. You would think that these people had no experience with rioting and protesting in California. Instead of them taking control of the situation out there, it seems like they have encouraged the protesters to be defiant of the officials. Now, Donald Trump is the chief executive officer of the United States. His job is to enforce the laws of the United States. He doesn't really need the permission of a governor or of a mayor to enforce the laws of the United States, the federal laws. So we have immigration laws on the book. He ran on the fact that he was going to begin mass deportation, as all presidents have done. He just went out and announced his, and he just went about it gangster style. But all of the presidents deport illegals. But they decided that they were going, because they don't like Donald Trump, and a lot of us don't. They're going to stand up to him and basically try to diminish his power as the president. They know good and well when there is a protest in Los Angeles, it's going to be looting and vandalism. Now they've got all those businesses out there are being looted and vandalized, and all of this graffiti writing and all the stuff that people do when they're having a protest like this. Now all of that is out of control based on what we see in the media. And it may not be exactly what's going on all over the city, but if you have a business in that city and your business is being looted, your business is going to suffer. And instead of her calling for a curfew at the beginning and talking to the citizens of Los Angeles and telling them to cooperate with law enforcement, she gonna stand up there and tell them that she support the people of Los Angeles, whether they're legal or not, whether they had papers or not. That was very irresponsible, because even though there are people, and I'm sure people who are trying to do the right thing by becoming legal the right way, the people who have no intention of doing what's right felt emboldened by what she said. They didn't feel like, oh, well, we need to obey the law and we need to cooperate with law enforcement. No. Now they were, oh, we're going to get out in the streets. We're going to stand up to them. So Donald Trump was quick to respond. I'm going to federalize the California National Guard and call in the Marines. See? And he has the authority to do that. Taking the authority of the California National Guard out of the hands of the governor of California. So Gavin Newsom goes running to federal court trying to get them to return the authority of the National Guard back to him. And the judge granted that, but then Donald Trump immediately filed an appeal with the Ninth Circuit Court, which is a higher court than that federal court, and they said, not so fast. We're going to let Trump do this for the time being. So Donald Trump still has the authority over the California National Guard and the Marines. But this is a sign of poor leadership on the part of the governor and the mayor, because normally a president will not overstep the authority of the governor, especially of a governor of a state. They just won't. But now we're talking about Donald Trump. And it's entirely possible that the reason the court sided with Donald Trump is because they are observing the incompetent leadership in California. They can't just let a city get out of control because people who are there illegally don't want to abide by the law. And also, what's happening is that the rest of the country, law enforcement in other parts of the country are watching what's going on in California, and they are making a decision about what's going to happen if that happens in their state or in their city. Take a listen to this.
Peaceful protests are part of our democracy. We invite people to share their opinions. The key word in that is peaceful. If you let it turn violent, you do not want to do that in Brevard County. And if somebody wants to know what I mean by turn violent, all right, this is what I mean. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop. So, to make it real simple, if you don't want to have any of those things happen to you, obey the law. Go protest all you want. Do it peacefully. But don't you dare break the law.
Now, there you have it. That's in Florida. Let's hear from Texas.
First of all, we want to make sure that what has happened in California does not happen in Texas. Texas is a law and order state, and we will use every tool that we can to ensure order across our state. That includes the deployment of Texas Department of Public Safety officers, as well as Texas National Guard, in strategic locations where they can provide the most robust response where needed. There is freedom of speech. However, if in your protest you damage somebody's property or you harm an individual, that's violating the law and you will be arrested for it.
So it sounds like these governors are going to be ready for whatever jumps off in their state. So let's see what Virginia has to say.
So there are a number of planned demonstrations starting tonight and heading into the weekend. And yes, I fully support our First Amendment and its protection of the right to demonstrate. But I want to be really clear, crystal clear, that there will be zero tolerance for any violence, for any destruction of personal property, business property, for disrupting traffic and putting people's lives in danger. And if you violate the law, you're going to be arrested. And so we are mobilizing substantial resources across the Commonwealth, state police, local resources, and yes, National Guard resources to make sure that we have substantial presence across the Commonwealth to, yes, make sure that First Amendment rights can be exercised. But if you violate the law, you will be arrested.
As a Black American listening to these tough white men talk, that doesn't gender any real pride in me because, we know these people. We know what they're capable of doing. But they are setting a tone of leadership and letting it be known on the front end what's not going to be tolerated in their state. And I think that's important if you're going to be the executive head of a state. You're not going to come into my state or any city in my state disrespecting everybody, disrespecting law enforcement. If you're here illegally, you're here illegally. And it goes right back to California. They set a terrible precedent for leadership. They really did. But it put the rest of the state officials on notice that if I don't want the president to come in and overstep my authority, then I have to take charge of my state. The reality is, when there is an uprising in a state like it is out there in California, and the leaders of that state do not see the need to bring disruptive and violent behavior under control, the president has every right and a responsibility to bring that city under control. And I'm going to end like I started. These two people right here are an example of terrible leadership in the United States of America. There is no time in America when Black Americans could come out and defy the police and throw rocks and bottles and spit on law enforcement and not expect the ultimate consequences. So these two are partially responsible, and I don't say they're completely responsible, but they are partially responsible for this rebellious attitude that has arisen in these last few days. making these people feel that they have a right to not obey the law. So these two are a terrible example of what leadership in a major city in America should look like. California is not a country of its own. It is still a state within the United States of America, and they are still bound by the laws of this country just like the rest of us. Now, that is exactly how I see it. But let me know how you see it. Thank you for listening. Give me a thumbs up and have a good evening.